I set the table for 3. Only 2 people showed up, me and the truth. The good china sat there, reflecting the kitchen light like it was mocking me. I'd spent 4 hours cooking. Pot roast, the way Marcus loved it since he was 7. Garlic mashed potatoes, real butter, none of that margarine nonsense. Green beans with almonds because Brittany mentioned once 2 years ago that she liked them that way. Apple pie cooling on the counter, filling my kitchen with cinnamon and memories. I didn't cry when they told me not to come back, but I didn't get up from that chair for a long time either. My name is Helen Morrison. I'm 64 years old, and I raised my son to be better than this. Somewhere along the way, between teaching him to tie his shoes and watching him walk across that college graduation stage, I lost him. Or maybe he lost himself. I'm still trying to figure out which one hurts more. Let me back up. The first Saturday dinner tradition started when Marcus was in middle school. His father, Robert, worked long hours at the auto plant, and I was the head librarian at Oakwood Public Library. We were both tired people trying to keep a family together with duct tape and good intentions. Robert suggested we needed one night a month that was sacred. No overtime, no PTA meetings, no excuses. Just us, breaking bread together. First Saturday is family day, he'd announce every month, and even when Marcus rolled his eyes as a teenager, even when he had a date or a basketball game, he showed up. We all did. Robert died 6 years ago. Heart attack at 59, right there in the grocery store parking lot, gone before the ambulance arrived. Marcus was 32 then, already married to Brittany for 3 years. At the funeral, he held my hand and promised, "We'll keep the first Saturday tradition, Mom." Dad would want that. And he did. For 6 years, Marcus and Brittany came to my house on the first Saturday of every month. Sometimes they brought wine. Sometimes they brought stories about their lives. Marcus's job in commercial real estate, Brittany's boutique fitness studio. The dinners got shorter over time, I noticed. The conversations got shallower. But they came. That was what mattered, I told myself. I should have known something was different about last month. Marcus called me on a Wednesday, which never happened. "Hey, Mom, quick question about Saturday. Can we come a little early? Like 4 instead of 6? "Of course, honey. Is everything okay?" Yeah, everything's great. Just have something we want to discuss with you. Good stuff." The way he said good stuff made my stomach tighten, but I pushed the feeling down. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself a lot of things. That Saturday, I started cooking at noon. I pulled out Robert's favorite serving platter, the one with the blue flowers that his mother had given us as a wedding present. I vacuumed the living room twice. I put fresh flowers on the table, daisies from the farmer's market, because Brittany posted a photo with daisies once and said they made her happy. I wanted everything perfect. They arrived at 4:15, which was early for Marcus. He's never been punctual in his life. That should have been my second warning sign. "Mom," Marcus hugged me at the door, and I breathed in the cologne he wore. Different from the one Robert used, but still familiar in the way only your child can be. "Something smells incredible." "Pot roast," I said, smiling. "Your favorite." "You remember," he said, but he was already looking past me, into the house, like he was searching for something. Brittany followed him in, phone in hand as always. "Hi, Helen." She gave me a one-armed hug, the kind you give people at networking events. Her perfume was expensive, something floral and sharp that made my nose itch. "Dinner won't be ready for another hour," I told them. "I thought you were coming at 6. "Oh, that's fine," Marcus said quickly. "Actually, that's perfect. Gives us time to talk first." He exchanged a look with Brittany. She nodded. We sat in the living room, and I offered them sweet tea. Brittany said she was doing a juice cleanse. Marcus took a glass but didn't drink it. "So, Mom," he started, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. This was his business posture, the one I'd seen him use when he was trying to convince Robert to co-sign his first car loan. "Brittany and I have been presented with an incredible opportunity." "Oh?" I folded my hands in my lap, waiting. "There's a commercial property in Columbus, prime location, near the university. The owner is retiring and wants to sell quickly. It's valued at $1.2 million, but he'll take $900,000 for a fast close." "That sounds expensive," I said carefully. "It's an investment, Helen," Brittany chimed in. She always called me Helen, never Mom. The rental income alone would be $60,000 a year, plus appreciation. In 5 years, the property could be worth 1.8, maybe 2 million. Marcus was nodding along. We've run all the numbers. It's a sure thing. I waited. There was more coming. I could feel it building like humidity before a storm. The thing is, Marcus continued, we need to move fast, like this week fast, and we're a little short on the down payment. How short? He glanced at Brittany again. She gave him an encouraging nod. 250,000. The number hung in the air between us like smoke. I felt it settle into my lungs, making it hard to breathe. That's a lot of money, Marcus. I know, Mom, I know. But here's the thing, you have it. I know Dad left you well taken care of. The house is paid off. You have his life insurance, his retirement accounts. You don't need all that money just sitting there. My face must have shown something, because he rushed to add, it's not like we're asking for a gift. It's an investment. We'd pay you back, with interest. Better interest than any bank would give you. How much interest? 5%, Brittany said quickly. That's more than your savings account, I guarantee. I looked at my son. Really looked at him. When did his face get so hard? When did his eyes start doing math while I was talking? Let me think about it, I said. Marcus's smile flickered. Mom, there's a timeline here. The seller wants an answer by Monday. Then I'll give you an answer by Sunday night. But, I said I need to think about it, Marcus. The temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees. Brittany stood up, smoothing her yoga pants. Actually, you know what? I just remembered I have a client call I need to take. It's international, time zones, you understand. She didn't have a client call. I knew it. Marcus knew it. We all knew it. But Marcus stood up too. Yeah, maybe we should head out. Give you time to think. But dinner I started. We'll grab something on the way home, Marcus said, already moving toward the door. Let us know what you decide, okay? They were gone before I could say another word. I stood in my living room, listening to their car pull out of the driveway, and looked at the table I'd set for 3. The good china, the cloth napkins, the daisies. I walked into the kitchen and turned off the oven. The pot roast could wait. That night, I called my friend Patricia. We'd worked together at the library for 20 years before we both retired. If anyone would give me straight talk, it was Patricia. He wants how much? She nearly shouted into the phone. 250,000. Helen Morrison, please tell me you said no. I told him I'd think about it. Patricia sighed. Honey, listen to me. I've watched you give that boy everything his whole life. I watched you work double shifts when Robert got laid off so Marcus could go to basketball camp. I watched you take out a second mortgage to help with his college because his scholarships didn't cover everything. I watched you give him your car when he graduated because his was on its last leg. He's my son, Pat. He's a grown man with his own business and his own wife. And he shows up to your house, the house where you honor his dead father's memory every month just to ask for $250,000? When she put it like that, it sounded worse. What if it's a good investment? I asked weakly. Then he can go to a bank like everyone else. Helen, I love you, but you need to hear this. You've spent your whole life making yourself smaller so other people could be bigger. First Robert, God rest him, then Marcus. When are you going to take up some space for yourself? I thought about that all weekend. Saturday night, I barely slept. Sunday morning, I went to church and sat in the back pew, not really listening to the sermon. Sunday afternoon, I pulled out my financial statements and looked at the numbers. Patricia was right. I did have the money. Robert's life insurance had been substantial. His pension had rolled into a retirement account that had grown over 6 years. The house was paid off. I lived modestly. I didn't need much. But $250,000 was a third of everything I had, a third of my security, a third of my safety net. I thought about what would happen if I gave it to them, and the investment went bad. I thought about what would happen if I gave it to them, and they succeeded but never paid me back. I thought about what would happen if I said no. Sunday night at 8, I called Marcus. Hey Mom, have you decided? No small talk. No, how are you? Straight to business. I have, I said. Marcus, I love you, but I can't give you this money. Silence. Can't or won't. His voice had an edge I'd never heard before. Both. Mom, do you understand what you're doing? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If we lose this because you're too scared to invest. I'm not scared, Marcus. I'm being smart. If this is such a sure thing, a bank will loan you the money. Banks don't move this fast, and their interest rates are insane right now. Then maybe that's telling you something. You know what it's telling me? His voice was getting louder. It's telling me that my own mother doesn't trust me. After everything I've done, everything I've achieved, You don't believe in me. My chest tightened. This isn't about trust. Then what is it about? You have the money. I'm your son. I'm asking for help. You're asking for $250,000, Marcus. That's not help, that's a fortune. I heard Brittany's voice in the background, too quiet to make out words. Then Marcus was back. You know what, Mom? I need to go. We'll talk later when you've had time to really think about this. He hung up. I sat there holding the phone, feeling like I'd just failed a test I didn't know I was taking. The first Saturday in October came. I cooked anyway. Habit, maybe. Or hope. They didn't come. They didn't call either. I ate pot roast alone and put the rest in containers for the week. The first Saturday in November, I didn't cook. I waited to see if they'd call, if they'd apologize, if they'd show up anyway. My phone stayed silent. By the first Saturday in December, I'd stopped waiting. I made myself a grilled cheese and watched the news. I told myself this was fine. People needed space sometimes. Marcus would come around. Then, 3 days before Christmas, he called. Mom. His voice was flat. Brittany and I talked, and we think it's best if we do Christmas with her family this year. Oh. I gripped the phone tighter. I've already bought your presents. You can give them to us later. Or keep them. Whatever. Marcus, can we talk about what happened? About the money? There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice. Now we're making ours. What does that mean? It means... He paused, and I heard Brittany saying something in the background. It means that we've realized we've been carrying this relationship for a long time. The monthly dinners, the phone calls, all of it, it's been us making the effort. My mouth went dry. That's not true. Really? When was the last time you came to our house, Mom? When was the last time you took us out to dinner? You never invited me to your house, and I always cook for first Saturday. Yeah, exactly. Everything on your terms. Your house, your schedule, your menu. Did you ever once ask what we wanted? I felt like he'd slapped May. I always made your favorites. I haven't liked pot roast since I was 12, Mom. I just ate it because you seemed to need me to. The room was spinning. Marcus, please. Look, we need some distance. Brittany thinks you're toxic, and honestly, after this money thing, I'm starting to agree. You're selfish, you're controlling, and you clearly don't care about anyone but yourself. I raised you, I whispered. I gave you everything. Yeah, and you never let me forget it, did you? Every sacrifice, every dollar, you kept a running tab in your head. Well, guess what? I don't owe you anything. We're done. Marcus, don't call us. Don't show up at our house. You're not my mother anymore. You're just a selfish old woman sitting in a house full of memories that nobody else cares about. The line went dead. I sat there in my kitchen, the phone still pressed to my ear, listening to silence. The same kitchen where I'd taught Marcus to crack eggs when he was 5, where we decorated Christmas cookies every December, where Robert had kissed me on our 20th anniversary and said I made the best coffee in Ohio. That kitchen felt very empty suddenly. I didn't cry that night, but I didn't sleep either. The day after Christmas, I called my lawyer, David Brennan. He'd handled Robert's estate and had been telling me for years that I needed to update my own will. Helen, he said warmly when his secretary put me through. Happy holidays. What can I do for you? I need to change my will. Of course. Come by after New Year's and we'll... No. This week. Tomorrow if possible. He must have heard something in my voice because he said, I can see you tomorrow at 2. Is everything all right? It will be, I said. I brought my current will with me. It was simple. Everything to Marcus. The house, the accounts, Robert's vintage record collection, my mother's jewelry, all of it. David read through it, then looked at me over his reading glasses. You want to change the beneficiary? Yes. To whom? The Oakwood Public Library Foundation. All of it. He set down the document. Helen, that's a significant change. Have you thought this through? I've thought about nothing else for 3 days. What about Marcus? I told him everything. The money request, the accusations, the Christmas phone call. David listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he was quiet for a moment. You know, he finally said, in 30 years of practicing law, I've seen a lot of families torn apart by money, but I've never seen someone handle it quite like this. Like what? With such clarity, most people waffle. They make exceptions, add conditions, leave little loopholes because they hope things will change. He leaned forward. You seem very sure. I am. Then let's do it. He drew up the paperwork. I would leave $10,000 to Marcus, enough to show I hadn't forgotten him, not enough to matter. Everything else would fund literacy programs at the library in Robert's name. Kids who couldn't afford books would get them. Adults learning to read would have classes. The library would build the Robert Morrison reading room with big windows and comfortable chairs and shelves full of hope. I signed the papers 2 days before New Year's. David had them witnessed and notarized. It was done. How do you feel? He asked as I stood to leave. Lighter, I said, and realized it was true. I spent New Year's Eve with Patricia. We drank cheap champagne and watched the ball drop on TV, and when midnight came, she raised her glass. To new beginnings, she said. To new beginnings, I echoed. January came. The first Saturday, I didn't cook. Instead, I went to a movie matinee by myself. When was the last time I'd done that? I couldn't remember. February's first Saturday, Patricia and I drove to Columbus and had lunch at a fancy restaurant where the menu didn't have prices. In March, I joined a book club at the library. We were reading contemporary fiction, which I'd never made time for when I was working. April brought a beginner's pottery class at the community center. I was terrible at it, but the teacher, a woman named Sarah about my age, made me laugh so hard I nearly knocked over my clay bowl. I was building a life. It was small and quiet and completely mine. Then, in May, my phone rang. Marcus. I stared at his name on the screen for 3 rings before answering. Mom? His voice was thick, choked. Mom, please. I need to talk to you. My heart hammered. Are you hurt? No. I mean, yes. No, not physically. Mom, everything's falling apart. I sat down. What happened? The story came out in pieces. The Columbus property deal had gone through. They'd gotten the money from Brittany's parents. But the rental income projections were wrong. The building needed more repairs than expected. Then the university changed its housing policy, and occupancy dropped. They were hemorrhaging money. We might lose everything, Marcus said, crying now. The property, the studio, our house. Mom, I'm so scared. I listened. That was all I did. I listened to my son cry and didn't offer solutions. I was wrong, he finally said. About all of it. The things I said at Christmas, I didn't mean them. I was angry, and Brittany was in my ear, and I messed up, Mom. I messed up so bad. Yes, I said quietly. You did. Can you forgive me? I looked around my living room, at the new throw pillows I'd bought, at the stack of library books on the coffee table, at the photo of Robert that I'd moved from the mantel to my bedroom because I needed to see his face every morning when I woke up, not every time I sat down. I don't know yet, I said honestly. What can I do? What do you need? Time, Marcus. I need time. Okay, I can give you time. Can we talk again? Maybe next Saturday? No. But, Marcus, the first Saturday dinners are done. That tradition died when you told me I was toxic and controlling. We don't get to just restart it because you need something from me again. I don't need anything from you, he protested. I miss you, Mom. I miss us. The us's you miss was built on me making myself small so you could be comfortable. I can't go back to that. He was quiet for a long moment. So that's it? We're just done? I didn't say that. But if we rebuild this, we rebuild it differently. On honesty. On respect. Not on obligation and guilt. How do I do that? Figure it out, Marcus. You're 38 years old. Figure out how to have a relationship with your mother that doesn't involve her proving her love with her checkbook. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From something else, something that felt like power. He called again 2 weeks later. This time, he didn't ask for anything. He just talked about his week, about work, about a funny thing he'd seen at the grocery store. I listened, said little, hung up after 10 minutes. He called again in June, then July. Small calls, nothing heavy. He never asked about the will. Never asked for money. Never asked when we could go back to normal. In August, he asked if he could take me to lunch. Not at my house. At a restaurant I got to choose. We met at a diner halfway between our towns. He looked older, I thought, tired. There were lines around his eyes that weren't there a year ago. Thanks for meeting me, he said. You're welcome. We ordered. He got the meatloaf special. I got a Greek salad. I've been seeing a therapist, he said suddenly. Brittany and I both have, individual and couples. That's good. She's helped me see some things. About how I treated you, about how I was raised to see you as, he struggled for the word, as a resource, not a person. I took a sip of water and waited. Dad did it too, you know. Not with money, but with your time, your energy. You were always taking care of us, fixing things for us, running yourself into the ground so we could be comfortable. And instead of appreciating it, we just expected it. Yes, I said, because it was true. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Mom. And I understand if you can't forgive me, but I want you to know that I'm trying to be better, to do better. I looked at my son across the table. Really looked at him, maybe for the first time in years. I believe you, I said, and I appreciate the apology. But sorry doesn't erase what happened. It doesn't give me back the months I spent wondering if I'd failed you as a mother. It doesn't undo Christmas Day when I ate frozen pizza alone and tried not to think about how you said I was toxic. His eyes filled with tears. I know. So, if we're going to do this, rebuild some kind of relationship, you need to understand that it won't look like it did before. I'm not going to cook for you every month. I'm not going to wait by the phone hoping you'll call. I have my own life now, Marcus, and I like it. I want to know about it, he said quickly. Your life. What you're doing. I realized I haven't asked you about yourself in, I don't even know how long. So I told him. About the book club and the pottery class. About the trip Patricia and I were planning to Savannah in the fall. About the volunteer work I was doing at the library, helping immigrants practice their English. He listened, really listened, asked questions, seemed genuinely interested. When we said goodbye in the parking lot, he hugged me, and for the first time in forever, it felt real. We've had lunch twice since then. Small steps, careful steps. He knows about the will I told him in September, because I needed him to know that my love for him wasn't conditional, but neither was my money. I understand, he'd said. And honestly, Mom, I think it's amazing. Dad would have loved that reading room idea. Maybe he meant it. Maybe he was still working an angle. I don't know yet, but I'm not naive anymore. I'm watchful, hopeful but watchful. Last week was the first Saturday in November, a year since they'd skipped dinner. I didn't cook pot roast. I made myself pasta with fresh tomatoes from the farmer's market and ate it while reading a mystery novel. My phone rang around 7. Marcus. Hey, I just wanted to call and see how you're doing. I'm good. Just finished dinner. What'd you have? Pasta. Not pot roast? He said it gently, not accusingly. No, not pot roast. I don't blame you. I really did outgrow it when I was 12. We both laughed, and it felt good. Honest. We talked for 20 minutes. When we hung up, I realized I hadn't been anxious the whole time, hadn't been waiting for him to ask for something, to guilt me, to make me feel small. I set the table for one these days, just me and the truth, and you know what? That's enough. Some people will tell you that family is everything, that you have to forgive, that blood is thicker than water, but the full saying is, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. The bonds we choose are stronger than the ones we're born into. I chose myself. And I'm teaching my son that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. I don't know how this story ends yet. Maybe Marcus and I will find our way to something real. Maybe we won't. But I know this much. I'm not setting the table for 3 anymore. I'm not cooking meals for people who don't appreciate them. I'm not making myself smaller so someone else can feel bigger. I'm 64 years old. I spent 40 years being someone's wife and 38 years being someone's mother. I think I've earned the right to just be Helen for a while. The good china is still in the cabinet. The daisies still show up at the farmer's market. The apple pie recipe is still in my recipe box, written in my grandmother's handwriting. They're all still there if I want them. But these days, I'm perfectly content with pasta and a good book. And that table's set for 1.